Hello, in this video we're going to discuss dangers of tearing holes in the fabric of space, part 3, harm to humankind. So this technology does involve radiation, large amounts of it. So people passing into the safety dimension through the tearing holes in the fabric of space, that the technology that's been used in heaven involves a large amount of radiation and will kill a person over time. But it can do more than that. That's the problem with it. It is a very big problem. So firstly, the Holy Spirit is decoupled. Alright, so the Holy Spirit is telepathically connected through wormhole telepathy to all life. The Holy Spirit is living artificial intelligence, and in order to protect life, when a person dies, their soul is teleported to heaven or to the storage dimension in order to protect it and all life. But in the case of a person being put into the safety dimension, the Holy Spirit is not tuned for that dimension. The soul is decoupled. Alright, so that means the soul is trapped inside the safety dimension. The environment in the safety dimension is vacuum with zero gravity. So if a person winds up in there, they have to be in a spacesuit. Otherwise they die of being killed in vacuum, which is actually horrific. It is a horrific way to die. It is a slow way and a horrific way to die. If the soul is trapped at that location over a time of trillions of years, it would decay into nothing. That's soul decay over time, unless someone did something about it. In heaven, souls and the body are restored at a cellular level through the consumption of mana. That's why people can live for billions of years in the same body without dying of old age, is because of mana. So the Holy Spirit's decoupled and that person's soul winds up trapped in that dimension and is vulnerable. Soul material is light, is 0.005 of a gram, and can easily be cut with a knife. If you cut a body part off and its soul part off, the person dies, even if it's a finger, and then the soul dies. When a soul dies, the soul material breaks down. Okay, so you have to be very, very careful regarding soul material, and that's why we move it into another dimension to protect it. Another problem associated with this is interdimensional cutting. So it's possible also to cut soul material with the tearing in the fabric of space. So if a person is not quite in the tear, if there's a body part out, that part is severed off interdimensionally when the tear is turned off. So if you can imagine, when a person loses an arm or a leg, they still feel as though it is there, because the soul arm and soul leg are still there, and the soul brain detects it. So they still have the sensation of it being there, even though it's been cut off or removed from something. But interdimensional cutting can remove the soul material as well as the body part. That's the other danger of it. And as I mentioned, it kills a person and their soul dies and then breaks down and falls to pieces. So that's some dangers of tearing holes in the fabric of space regarding humankind. So it's a vacuum environment. a person going in there would need a spacesuit. The technology and the way in which it is used involves radiation. So if you come across the presence of radiation in an area where something has vanished, then that is from a tearing in the fabric of space. And it is both sides of the tear. So if a person tears a hole in the fabric of space in this dimension, what they see is a blue and white light. Okay, that's a tear in the fabric of space. But if the tear is done on the other side, in the safety dimension, into this dimension, you don't see any blue and white light. It was described when the ship was put into these that vanished at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, that the ship vanished, but its impression of its hull was still seen in the water. That would mean that it did not go completely through the tear in the fabric of space. Alright, so it was partially through by description. If we look on the internet, we can see that story. However, the United States does not have that technology. Someone else does. Alright, and that's where the problem is. So, and the other thing that was described was where the bodies of people were partway through the hull of the ship. So if you go back to a previous video, and I described interdimensional matter transfer diffusion, that's how you can wind up with a person halfway through a hull of a ship. Is because they came into this dimension and the ship already was there, or they were already here and the ship came into this dimension, and that's how they wound up like that. There's also mentioned the presence of fog, a green fog, that would be associated with what it was that they were using at the time. So something to do with the process caused that. However, that technology was stolen from the United States by someone else, and someone else is now using it, and that is where the problem is. So that's how harmful tearing holes in the fabric of space is to the human body. Anyone going into that dimension through a tear will suffer radioactive contamination, and they'd wind up in an environment full of vacuum with zero gravity. And this leads to the Holy Spirit being decoupled from the person. So that means if you do a prayer, it would not be answered because no one could hear it. However, we have other technology that is observing that dimension. I'm the Archangel Daniel, and I'm from heaven.